Well, isn't this a beautiful location to start a video? This is actually the rooftop of the house I live in here in Bali, and it is a gem of a spot to be able to come up here in the morning, shoot, work out. Not that I do that often, just taking the vibes. There's the sun rises in that direction and the sun sets in this direction. Today I'm leaving for a 2-day road trip with my good friend Luca, and I plan to film basically the whole thing and share with you guys 5 beginner photography tips / mistakes that are made and how you can get better at photography fairly easily. Let's get into it. Well, we've just made it to Sekampur Waterfall, as you can see there. And I'm not over there right now because it's way too loud to be able to talk to you. But in saying that, tip number 1 for kind of beginner photography tips / mistakes to be made is to honestly shoot everything in the beginning. Right now we're at this waterfall. Later today we're going to be shooting some mountains and I believe maybe some rice farmers as well. We're just going to be shooting everything, but especially in the beginning, if you limit yourself to only taking landscapes or city shots or portraits or whatever the case, you're not going to kind of get a vibe for all the different styles and types of photography, and that's going to limit you, especially moving forward. We're going to be wrapping up things here at the waterfall. It's been beautiful, but unfortunately the light is just getting a little bit too harsh now, so we're going to move on. As you can see, this place is massive and I cannot wait to get back, hopefully soon, because I'd love to spend a little bit more time here shooting. And yeah, also cameras are getting soaked, so it's probably not the best idea to stay down here for long. So we have just come up from Sekampur Waterfall and stopped to have a little lunch, and feel a bit tired right now, cannot lie. The hike up is pretty solid, but just down there running around, shooting. We drove like 2 hours here and we have about another 2 hours to where we're staying tonight. That's all right, it's all in the fun of it. And that leads me to tip number 2, and that is to make sure you're not over editing your photos. I see way too often a lot of beginners pushing that contrast, clarity, and saturation slider way too far up, and honestly, just don't. Only a very certain amount of people can kind of pull off certain styles, and especially in the beginning, if you go way too hard on your edits, I can nearly guarantee you're probably not pulling it off. I don't say that to discourage you, but I just say that to hopefully get you better at editing in the future. So we're now going to head off to where we're staying tonight, which is a place called Sumber Kema. Like I said, it's about 2 hours away, so we've got a hefty drive in front of us, and I cannot wait for tonight's sunset. We have arrived to our sunset spot, which are these insane salt farms behind me, create a gorgeous reflection, and we just shot some really cool stuff of the local farmers just doing their thing. Man, it looked awesome. But that leads me into tip number 3, and that is to not rush into shooting in manual mode. Now, I covered this topic about 2 weeks ago. That video will be somewhere on the screen. And all the shots I just shot there were shot in AV or aperture priority mode, whatever it's called on your camera, and they're all different. And that is because the light was changing the whole time. Some of the faces were going from dark to bright. There's like a little salt hill just over here, and that was a totally different exposure to the reflective clouds here, in just all different kind of exposures. And if I was shooting in manual mode, I probably would have missed half the shots I got. And yeah, in all honesty, especially if you're just learning, aperture and shutter priority, more aperture more than shutter priority, are the best 2 modes to shoot in, because not only does it teach you how that setting works, but it also takes care of the adjacent settings, and yeah, you don't really have to worry about it. Also, I know heaps of photographers that still shoot in aperture priority years into their careers, so yeah, keep that in mind when shooting. Definitely check out aperture and shutter priority. So on to tip number 4, and that is to make sure you're directing the viewer's focus. Now what I mean by this is to not include a whole bunch of stuff in your frame and composition, because as a photographer, it is your job to choose what is in and what isn't in the frame. Directing the viewer's focus can be done in many ways, but one mistake that I see beginners make all the time is including way too much in their composition. You can use things like leading lines, foreground elements, background elements, whatever the case, different lighting situations to direct the viewer's eye, kind of narrow in. But that kind of comes with time and is definitely situational in some aspects. So in all honesty, what I would recommend is trying to limit how much stuff is in focus in your frame. I'll put a few examples on the screen now, and as you can see, these shots, while they're not super simple, you can clearly tell what the subject is and what you should be looking at. And that is something I see beginners make a mistake all the time on. Well, here we are on some random kind of like headland point on the north of Bali. The sun has well and truly come up. So this morning I brought you guys out here to share the 5th and final tip that I have for beginner photographers, and that is to stop taking blurry photos. 9 blurry photos out of 10 blurry photos are usually not artistic or intentional. And believe me, they don't look good. There are so many ways to stop yourself from taking blurry photos, and I've made a whole video covering it, which dives deep into the settings, the focus modes, and how you can optimize your camera to make sure you're not taking those blurry images, because believe me, it is one of the largest things that sets professional photographers and beginner photographers apart. But anyway guys, that's gonna wrap up today's video. If you have enjoyed, let me know. We've traveled quite far, we've gone to a few locations. This is stunning. I am so stoked with this morning. It's like really nice and warm already, and like the sun is just, perfect. But like I said, this is gonna wrap up today's video. So if you have enjoyed, please let me know down below. Leave a like, leave a comment, whatever you feel is necessary. And yeah, I guess I'll be seeing you guys back here next week. So thank you for watching, and I will catch you later. Peace.